In this video, we're going to learn about systems of equations and how to solve them through graphing. So what is a system of equations? Well, it's a collection of two or more equations. So we'll see word problems where we're going to write equations, two or more of them, and then we want to find if the graph of those equations intersects or not. So, for example, I might have one equation of a line that goes this way, and another one might go this way, and we would know that the intersection of those two lines would be right about there. A lot of times we're going to see these in word problems. Let's move on. We've already worked in IXL on plugging points into two equations to see if they work. So we learned that if a point satisfies both equations, then that is the intersection of the two lines. Let's move on and see what that looks like with graphing. These are the steps we need to follow for solving systems with graphing. 1. We're going to graph each equation on the same coordinate plane, which is the xy axis. 2. We're going to look at that graph and estimate the point of intersection where those two lines meet. Then 3. We're going to check the point just like we did in IXL by substituting the x and y in for each equation. We call this a point tester. Pause the movie now and copy these 3 steps into your notes. So let's try one. Let's start by graphing these lines so that we can find its solution of the system, or the solution to the two equations. We learned that this number here represents the y-intercept, 0, 1. So I start with my point at 0, 1. The slope is -1 over 2. Which means I drop 1 and run 2. Drop 1, run 2, and my line is more or less there. Now it's time to graph the second equation. I know the y-intercept is, let's change the color on this one. The y-intercept is -2. There's no number in front of the x, so I just know it's 1x, so that's 1 over 1. Rise 1, run 1. This is a review from Chapter 4. Now that I've graphed both equations on my coordinate plane, I can see that I think the point of intersection is going to be 2, 0. Well, let's plug those back into the equations and see if they work. Let's start with this first one here. 0 equals -1/2 times 2 plus 1. So -1/2 times 2 is -1, and -1 plus 1 is in fact 0. So that point works for that particular equation. Let's try the other equation, y equals x minus 2, for that intersecting point that we found. Y is 0. Does 0 equal 2 minus 2? Yes, it does. So this point also works for the equation y equals x minus 2. Now we know that 2, 0 is the solution. Pause the movie, copy this graph with the equations and your point testers into your notes as an example. Now it's time for you to try one on your own. Remember your steps. You're going to graph these lines, find a point of intersection, then go back and check those points to make sure they work. Bring your notes to class tomorrow.